First at 9. This is Derana 24/7.
Priyasad Depp is Sri Lanka's 45th new Chief Justice. 20 suspects in the Mount Lavinia Court's weapon recovery case remanded. Will government seek more time to respond to the UNHCR proposals? And making international headlines, Brexit bill delay after Lords back rights of EU nationals. Good evening, Mahesh Johnny for Derana 24/7. We are live across Sri Lanka at this hour, and let's begin with a first look at the local stories. Supreme Court Judge Priyasad Depp was sworn in as the 45th Chief Justice of Sri Lanka. He took oaths before President Maithripala Sirisena this morning. With the retirement of outgoing Chief Justice K. Sripavan, the Constitutional Council nominated Supreme Court Judge Priyasad Depp as the next Chief Justice of the country. Priyasad Depp earlier held the office of Solicitor General from 2007 to 2011 and became a Supreme Court judge in 2011. He has also fulfilled duties as acting Chief Justice. The new Chief Justice is an old boy of St. Joseph's College, Colombo, and holds a Bachelor of Arts in Development Studies from the University of Colombo. The Executive Committee and the All-Ireland Working Committee of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party met this evening at the Sri Lanka Foundation Institute. The meeting was chaired by President Maithripala Sirisena.
The meeting commenced at 5 p.m. with members discussing matters pertaining to the party. Former Speaker and Parliamentarian Chamal Rajapaksa made an unexpected appearance while no other joint opposition members participated in the meeting.
The President made it very clear that he wishes to establish a clean government. His intention is to establish a country free of fraudsters and corrupt individuals.
The party secretary asked us to prepare for the upcoming elections. We have almost selected candidates at village level. He also asked us to get acquainted with their respective voter base.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says that Sri Lanka will not develop without investment in technology and knowledge-based economy. The Prime Minister was speaking at the convocation of the Sri Lanka Institute of Information Technology recently.
We can no longer run our economy on low-wage jobs. After we took the government, we asked the Harvard University's Center for International Development in the Kennedy School of Government to do a study of our economy. As the Harvard University report analyzed, is that we have become a middle-income economy. But our exports are based on low wages. So we are competing for low wages and we are suppressing our wages, and as a result, young people are either going abroad or driving three-wheelers. So we have to get out of this. We have to diversify exports, we have to find new markets, we have to innovate, and we have to become competitive.
Let's move on to business news now. The Norwegian government pension fund Global has more than doubled its investments in Sri Lanka by the end of 2016 to $65 million. A statement from the Norwegian embassy in Colombo says that the fund's investment in the island indicated that investor confidence and available opportunities in the market. Value at $890 billion, the fund has a mandate to safeguard and administer the Norwegian government's revenue from the oil and gas sector. It is one of the largest sovereign wealth funds in the world, holding about 1.3% of global stocks. In 2015, it made the first investments in Sri Lanka amounting to $31 million. The statement adds that Sri Lanka investment opportunities and market standards have improved in the last years. Also in business news, Ceylon Chamber of Commerce has formed the Dairy Association of Sri Lanka with a view to support the improvement of local production. CCC said although successive governments embarked on various initiatives to increase local milk production, to reach its self-sufficiency, Sri Lanka will import around 70% of the requirement. The Chamber further noted that private sector, although actively involved in all levels of the dairy value chain, lacks an active trade body to work closely with the public sector organizations. Thereby, the Dairy Association is expected to facilitate the lobbying of stakeholders, issue and concern with policymakers. Well, the Colombo equity is closed in opposite direction during today's session despite foreign inflows in premier blue chips. Net foreign inflow was mainly seen in John Keel's holdings amounting to 140 million rupees. Colombo Dockyard, John Keel's holdings and Ceylon Bank non-voting were able to attract high investment activity. For more details, we have Imeshi Fernando from the Colombo Stock Exchange.
The benchmark all-share price index gained 5.68 points to close at 6,127, while the S&P Sri Lanka 20 index lost 5.41 points to close at 3,533. The turnover was 783.92 million rupees, with 73 million shares changing hands in 2,534 trades. Top 5 gainers of the day were SNB Leasing, Non-Voting, Equity 2, Amana Takaful, Apico Insurance and Bearwell Resorts. Today's foreign purchases were 344.35 million rupees and the foreign sales were 51.73 million rupees. There were 3 crossings today and the crossings turnover was 349.45 million rupees.
The rupee traded lower today as importer demand surpassed dollar sales exports. Here's a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other currencies during the day today. Let's take a look at international markets now. The 3 main stock indices in the United States closed at record highs yesterday after Donald Trump's first address to Congress lifted optimism among investors. The Dow Jones Industrial Average has broken the 21,000 mark for the first time, while the Nasdaq Composite and the S&P 500 also surged.
Trump on Tuesday said he wanted to boost the US economy with a massive tax relief and make a $1 trillion push on infrastructure, bets that have helped Wall Street scale fresh records since the election.
His tone was quite different than we're used to, and so I think that that basically caught the attention of a lot of investors.
The Dow closed yesterday's trading up 1.46% at 21,115, and the Nasdaq Composite climbed 1.35% to 5,904 points. The S&P Financial Index gained 2.84%, outperforming the other 10 major sectors, helped by Federal Reserve's officials hinting at an interest rate hike this month.
Welcome back, everyone. We want to bring you some more local stories. Well, President Maithripala Sirisena calls support to the government's plan for expedited development focusing on the year 2020. The President was speaking at the ceremony to West Laksanda 7 housing complex in Salamula Kolonnawa with the public today.
We
are looking forward to expedited development within the next 3 to 4 years across all sectors in the country. This is necessary for economic development that we envisage in the years up to 2020. Those who criticize our work always try to portray a very negative picture of what we are doing. The media also allocates a lot of time to support these statements. The media is not unbiased. They always provide the opportunity for criticism and negative opinion. This is a feature of a free country that has a democratic society. Therefore, I respectfully request all of you to not misuse this opportunity to destroy the country.
Well, more update on the bond issue. Former Additional Director of the Statistics Department of Central Bank, MZM Azim, confirms that former Central Bank Governor Arjun Mahendran was present at the Public Debt Department during the bond auction of February 27, 2015. Azim today testified before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry investigating the controversial Treasury bond issuance for a second day.
State councils questioned the former additional director of the Central Bank Statistics Department whether the Public Debt Department had received any complaint regarding the direct placement method that was used to fulfill monetary requirements of the Treasury on the 20th of February 2015. Azim replied that he was unaware whether any such complaint was made or not. He was then inquired of whether the Domestic Debt Management Committee decided to draw a borrowing program to fulfill the requirement of 13.58 billion rupees of the Treasury in March, and if so, what modality was used to raise funding. Azim replied that the Domestic Debt Management Committee decided to go for a primary auction and also direct placement. The State Council highlighted that the bond auction was advertised in national newspapers on the 25th of February 2015 for bonds worth 1 billion rupees. To this, Azim responded that the auction was advertised following instructions from the Monetary Board. State councils further emphasized during the inquiry that the time period of auction was advertised as 8:30 a.m. to 11 a.m., but was subsequently extended till 11:04 a.m. on the day of auction. Azim confirmed that they received the last bid at 11:04 a.m. following a request made by a primary dealer. He pointed out that the director of the Public Debt Department is able to extend the time period of an auction if a request is made by a primary dealer. However, when the State Council inquired if anyone visited the Public Debt Department during the auction, Azim replied that the then Central Bank Governor, Arjuna Mahendran, had entered the Public Debt Department accompanied by security. When questioned further, Azim testified that this was the first instance he had seen of a central bank governor making a physical appearance in the Public Debt Department when a bond auction was taking place. According to him, during his appearance, Arjuna Mahendran had made reference to the details of auction, which were not available at the time, about a funding requirement for a road development project, and also showed preference for auction-based funding. Azim also said that no decision was made at the time, and the former governor left the Public Debt Department at 11:11 a.m. following the conclusion of the auction. Speaking further, the former Additional Director General of CBSL Statistic Department said that during the 2 minutes from 10:57 to 10:59 a.m., the Bank of Ceylon placed a bid worth 13.58 billion rupees on behalf of perpetual treasuries. It was also highlighted during the inquiry that the bid made by Bank of Ceylon on behalf of perpetual treasuries was tendered at a higher yield to maturity than the bid made for BOC itself. The Commission will continue to question the former director of the Public Debt Department, Mohammed Azim, regarding the process of the tender board that took place on the 27th of February 2015 tomorrow.
In one of our headline stories, in Geneva, Foreign Affairs Minister Mangala Samaraweera discussed the advancements Sri Lanka has made in human rights with the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. The Foreign Minister is attending the 34th session of the UNHCR.
On the sidelines of the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, Foreign Minister Mangala Samaraweera called on the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Zaid Rad Al Hussein, yesterday. They discussed matters pertaining to Sri Lanka's human rights situation. According to reports from Geneva, it is learnt that the United States and the United Kingdom will co-sponsor a resolution to prolong the inquiry into alleged human rights violations in Sri Lanka by a further 2 years. Meanwhile, Foreign Minister Mangala Samaraweera also met with the Spanish Foreign Minister Alfonso Quasedo. Spain pledged its support to ensuring Sri Lanka's share of the GSP Plus trade concessions. Quasedo has also stressed that the two countries should strengthen ties in investment and trade, while also expressing Spain's intention of establishing a resident mission in Sri Lanka. Minister Samaraweera also met with US State Department official for Global Criminal Justice Todd Buchwald to discuss matters pertaining to reconciliation and trade.
The joint opposition says that the finance minister must take responsibility of the controversial Gazette notification issuance pertaining to the controversial bond issue.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa is someone who took the challenge of fighting against terrorism, the global crude oil issue and the government debt crisis. Therefore, he would not go to courts just because some finance minister challenges him too. However, on behalf of him, the joint opposition will initiate not one but many legal actions against Minister Ravi Karunanayake next week.
නඩු කීපයක් විවිධ පාර්ශ්වයන් විසින් පවරනු ලබන. මේ සම්පූර්ණ ගැසට් එක ශුන්‍යයි.
This gazette is completely invalid. We ask the judiciary to maintain that aspect clearly. It is obvious that this fraudulent government does not have the brains to even commit fraud properly.
ඉතාමත් අඥානවන්ත පිරිසක්.
President's Counsel Dr. Harsha Cabral says that the people are ignorant about the country's laws. He made these comments at a workshop on Intellectual Property Act held in the Bar Association today.
If the right holder is not interested in protecting their own right, the government will not step in to look after your right. The basic protection for copyright is for the lifespan of the author and 70 years thereafter. All these talented people never thought that there was a lot of value in it for the creator. They simply assign their rights.
If you are kind of registering a new creation, you should be able to see the prior art of that. By automatic operation of law, the protection is given to any copyright holder the sooner, the moment that they create their new creation.
Why do you think that people are not enforcing their rights? Is it because of the lack of awareness, or have they lost faith in the law?
Our legal system is also not very effective as compared to Singapore. There are shorter mechanisms which are available under the Act. And also now, since the Commercial High Court is in operation, there is only one appeal to the Supreme Court. So if people want, they can enforce their rights.
Welcome back, everyone. Former Minister Professor G.L. Pires spoke on the nation's national security issue and the possible rise of terrorism.
ඩයස්පෝරාව සියලුම දේවල් කරනවා මේ රටේ අන්තවාදී කොටස්.
The diaspora is doing everything to revive the extremist groups in this country. The government cannot take any action in regard to this because the Sirisena Wickremesinghe regime is in debt to the diaspora of providing them with the opportunity to come into power. However, this was not a selfless act but was done in exchange for the promises made during the time. And now those promises need to be fulfilled. Therefore, the government has no will or method to eliminate the rising head of terrorism.
Let's quickly move on to sports. In the 13th West Asia Baseball Cup held in Islamabad, the Sri Lankan baseball team has won gold, beating host Pakistan 4-2 in yesterday's final. The underdog result against the world number 25 is Sri Lanka's first baseball goal in 3 decades. This comes after a 11-0 win against Nepal in the semi-final and 22-0 win against Iran in the group stage. In international sports, as the English FA Cup moves into its latter stages, Premier League giants Manchester City survived an early scare at home last night but won 5-1. Their victory against second-tier side Huddersfield Town sets up a quarter-final date with Premier League side Middlesbrough.
After a goalless first game, the replay started poorly for City as Harry Bunn slid a left-footed shot past keeper Bravo after 7 minutes. Leroy Sané tapped in on the half-hour mark to equalise, and 4 minutes later, Huddersfield conceded a penalty by fouling Nicolas Otamendi in the area. Sergio Aguero made no mistake from the spot to give City the lead. The forward had a shot saved 3 minutes later but passed the rebound to Pablo Zabaleta, who extended City's lead. The Argentine forward added another in the second half, and Kelechi Iheanacho completed the rout in stoppage time.
Also in sports, having been awarded the 2022 Commonwealth Games after being the only city to make a confirmed bid, South African authorities say that Durban may not be able to host the Games due to the cost of staging the event. A final decision is to be made by the Commonwealth Games Federation.
Despite the chance to be the first African hosts of the Commonwealth Games, the government has been forced to rethink due to sluggish growth and the economic legacy of the Games. Despite an estimate of 20 billion rand output to the economy, budgetary concerns persist for South Africa.
If the Commonwealth CGF come back to us and say we can host with what we have negotiated with them is fine and good, but if we can't, we can't. And that will be it.
Meanwhile, Liverpool, a Games bidder for 2026, have expressed their interest in hosting the 2022 event after Commonwealth Games officials hinted that another host may be needed.
In your world tonight, the British government's Brexit bill faced a setback yesterday after the House of Lords voted to amend the bill so that it would guarantee the rights of European Union nationals living in the UK. The vote is the first parliamentary defeat of the government's Brexit bill and is a blow to Prime Minister Theresa May, who had hoped to pass the bill without changes.
The amendment proposed by the House requires the government to ensure that EU nationals will have the same full rights to live and work within the United Kingdom.
There have voted contents 358, not contents 256, so the contents have it.
Government ministers have acknowledged the importance of the issue but insisted that the protection of UK expatriates in the EU also be considered. However, in spite of the defeat, the government is planning to overturn the changes when the bill returns to the House of Commons for re-evaluation. Once the bill is passed, the British Premier will have the authority to trigger Brexit and begin official negotiations.
Twin suicide bombings claimed by the Taliban shook Afghanistan's capital Kabul yesterday, leaving 16 dead and 44 injured. The attacks are reported to have taken place almost simultaneously at around midday.
The first attack began when a suicide car bomber blew himself up outside a police station in western Kabul in the close vicinity of a military training facility. A 5-hour gun battle ensued between officers and another attacker, during which most of the fatalities occurred. Shortly afterwards, another suicide bomber blew himself up outside Afghanistan's intelligence agency in eastern Kabul. The attacks come a day after the Taliban killed 12 policemen in an insider attack in Helmand, a southern province of Afghanistan.
Also in international news, as torrential rains continue, a landslide crashed into a major road in Peru yesterday, blocking access to the Andes Mountains. Similar scenes have been unfolding throughout the country, leaving 250,000 people displaced and a death toll of 26 so far.
Difficulties have mounted for residents since early this month when Peru declared a state of emergency in the rain-lashed areas following a dengue outbreak. Meanwhile, residents and rescue personnel strived to rescue a horse trapped in a muddy field. The National Meteorological and Hydrological Services of Peru predict that the current weather patterns will continue until April.
On to the weather now. Due to the atmospheric disturbance in the vicinity of Sri Lanka, the prevailing rainy conditions is expected to continue during the next few days. Cloudy skies along with the showers or thunder showers can be expected at times over eastern, northern, north central and Ur provinces. Showers or thunder showers will occur elsewhere, particularly after 2 p.m. Heavy showers of about 100 millimeters are also likely at some places, especially in the western Sabragamur, central and eastern provinces and in the Galle and Mathura districts as well. Now here's your city by city forecast. Well, Well, that is a part of your world tonight right here on Other Derana 24/7. For the latest in local, international, business, sports, weather or entertainment news, do log on to www.otherderana.lk or like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at Other Derana. Thank you for making us a part of your evening. And before we end tonight's news, we want to take you to Germany and introduce you to the dance of the market women. Whom do you ask? Well, it's been considered as Germany's answer to France's Mardi Gras and Britain's Shrove Tuesday. Good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.